The growth and development of people is highest calling for leadership. Hello and welcome all of you to the show Executive Coaching Unlocked, the hidden growth strategy of high performers. This show where we deep dive into the mindset, tools and inner work that drive the world's most impactful leaders. I'm Dr. Abhilasha Vyas and I'm thrilled to have you all with us today. This series is designed to uncover what fuels true leadership, not just titles or achievements, but the inner clarity, resilience, and habits that separate good from great. We look beyond skills into coaching, reflection, and the unseen moments where growth actually happens. I'm truly honored to welcome our guest today, Hilal Ahmed Sir, Chief Information Security Officer at Liminal, a leading platform in digital asset custody and wallet infrastructure. He's known voice in the cybersecurity space. I've seen him in many conferences, and he serves as an advisor to the Cloud Security Alliance Bangalore chapter as well. With a career rooted in hands on security and grown through vision, mentorship, and influence, he exemplifies what it means to lead at the frontier of innovation and tech. He builds secure, scalable systems in some of the most demanding tech environments, and his insights on leadership, self awareness, and community make him a powerful voice for today's conversation. So, heartily welcomes you, Hilal sir, for this show today. Thank you so much for coming here, for sharing your thoughts and journey with all of us.
Uh, it's a pleasure, Dr. Abhilasha, to be here. I mean, you have been very generous with my introduction. I'm really not that great. And yeah, but thanks for having me. I was looking forward to this conversation. And yeah, I'm very, very happy to be here.
Thank you, sir. You are very humble when you are saying that. I just was able to take the crunch of that, but I've seen your profile and I'm following you also. Many conferences I was part of, like upcoming also, where you are coming. So a lot to learn from leaders like you. So that's why I think this show is going to help many newbie learners or many people, those who are looking for such roles, that what all things can be taken and learn from your journey. So I think we should start with your journey itself, sir. Like how did you evolve into leadership role, uh, which you hold today in cybersecurity, especially in the digital asset space at Liminal?
So, yeah, so it's actually a very interesting question. I mean, I really like this question that when did your leadership journey start? So ideally, like I think whether you are managing people or not managing people, you're leading programs or not leading programs, you act in a leadership capacity in some way, right? So you're either a leader in basically technical arena, or you're a people leader, or you're a program leader, or even if you manage projects, you're a leader, right? So it has to exhibit from whatever you do. So you have to kind of like show the leadership capabilities no matter what your role is. So, but if you ask me about specifically about my journey as a security leader, particularly when I started basically like working as a CISO, so I think uh, it was an accident, to be honest. Like I was very happy being an individual contributor, like doing security research, building security products, troubleshooting things, working on incident response and things like that. I was very happy. And I was recruited by this organization in Indonesia called Traveloka as a security architect, which was my normal role. But as soon as I joined, I realized that I was like the first person to join in security. So, so I was like, what? What is going on? So what happened was that it became kind of like my responsibility to create the entire program, hire people, create security charter, work with basically vendors, work with different people across the leadership levels and things like that, right? So it was like a role that I was not very familiar with. But at the same time, I did not really have a choice. I had joined, and it was my responsibility to make sure that we run a very good security program. And the expectation from the basically executive leadership was also the same, that okay, we have hired you. I believe that you were a security architect, but it does not mean that you are going to be like sitting by yourself doing some testing or research or whatever. You have to kind of like make sure that okay, we build a very robust security program. So that was the start, and it happened like almost like 10 years back. That was my first basically like role as a CISO. So I was upgraded. My role was basically like updated to be the CISO of the organization. So I became head of security, managing everything from compliance, application security, your infra like cloud security and things like that. So it was purely accidental. I never thought like, okay, I'm going to be because I was like kind of person who loved to solve problems. Like, and this was one of those things that I think enriched my profile because I believe that there are problems which are not necessarily always going to be technical. So you have to kind of like work across the spectrum to be able to basically show the leadership capability. So that gave me that opportunity. The first opportunity came from there, and since then, I have worked as a CISO in Dream 11. I have worked as a CISO in Razorpay, and now I'm the CISO at Liminal Custody. So it has been a very interesting, fulfilling journey. And I think that accident, me being hired as the security architect, that eventually taking up the security role of a CISO. So I think that was very interesting.
Yes, very, very interesting actually. So this like take me towards the next question. Want to know more about the current role which you are doing, like what all responsibilities you have.
At Liminal, so my role is basically like again ensuring that our organization maintains the trust of basically our customers, building robust products. But at the same time, internally, like I manage the enterprise application security as well. I manage the compliance, both tech and regulatory. Apart from that, I also manage the infra side, which is the DevOps and our platform engineering teams as well. So, given that we are a very like cutthroat, or we can say cutting edge technology like a blockchain and Web3, so our applications require a specific and a very unique security requirements. And to scale the systems to basically like fulfill those requirements actually makes it very, very interesting. So this is a domain that's new to me because before this I never interacted with Web3 or blockchain in its capacity the way we are doing it right now. So, but this is a very, very interesting role. And I believe that this is an area where there's a lot of ambiguity in terms of what exactly are the security frameworks and what are the security requirements. So it is an opportunity for us to basically like provide that thought leadership and provide basically the benchmarks and frameworks that are necessary for Web3 and blockchain security. Apart from that, I think this our company does basically custody basically products as well. So which means that like we are constantly like in the process of innovation, creativity, and because this is a very niche area, so the attack vectors and threat profiles, they are not necessarily always going to be very obvious. And yeah, so I think this is a very important and very interesting role, and the usual things with related security.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with these technological roles which you are mentioning, I'm sure that you are also leading the team and you are also taking so many influential initiatives or steps to make your team also aware about the new updates which are happening, because as a leader, the responsibility is completely changed. So I always have this question, like I ask to myself also, like every leader is having like a kind of a one moment where a leader realized that leadership is not more than it's not only the managing the people or managing the task, it's about influencing. So do you also have a similar kind of a point where you thought that instead of managing the team or instead of managing the task, uh, why should I not influence them, or why should I not change the style of the leadership or managing the team which I'm doing?
Absolutely. I mean, earlier, like in my career, I tried to basically like do everything, right? So because I thought, okay, like I can get this thing done in like 1 day or like couple of hours, and then that kind of like did not work very well because ultimately, like I had basically like not really realized that delegation was something that I have to do, and that was necessary for me to basically do my job. So I realized at the initial moments of my career, I think it was more about basically, oh, let's get this thing done, let's get that thing done. I can do this like this fast, right? If I basically ask someone, he will not even understand what I'm talking about and things like that. So then I realized it was a big mistake because uh, working like that is not going to scale you. It's not going to scale your team. It's not going to get the best out of basically our team as well, right? So it was very weird, basically like having to do it all by yourself and thinking that I'm the only person who can do it very, very well. So then I realized that the only thing that can scale very well is basically delegation. So you have to delegate. You have to make sure that your team grows with you. You have to make sure that okay, you do not basically get involved in basically BAU, which is business as usual things or operational tasks as much because that's going to consume your all your bandwidth, and then you are not left with much to basically do any strategic level initiatives, branding, things and like that, right? So it's very difficult for a person to basically be doing everything by himself. So delegation was something that I did not actually do initially, and I learned my lesson very, very hard because I kept on missing deadlines. I kept on basically people used to leave my teams like without any second thought because they thought, okay, I'm doing a lot of micromanagement and things like that. That was very that was not a good strategy. So ultimately, I realized that okay, you have to delegate as much as possible. So which led me to basically like trusting in my team to do the right thing, trusted in my team to basically own up things and show basically like accountability wherever it is required, and they grew from that. So I think wherever there's a chance of basically delegation, I do that. That's the only way my team can also grow, right? So for example, if they are not familiar with a particular basically technology or any kind of framework or something like that, they will go and learn that, and they can make a mistake, but that's okay. They will learn from the mistake. That's why I think really believe in failing fast to make sure that okay, we don't repeat our mistakes and we learn from that and basically go from there. I think that's very important for people to grow and people to realize that okay, there is more than one way to get things done. So I think the only way these things can grow and I think the teams can scale is by delegation and ensuring that okay, you show trust and you show basically like faith in the team that you have, and ensure that they have the necessary enablers like tools, training, they have correct prioritization, they do not get burnt out, and ensure that okay, they're basically like blockers are actually removed in time. So I think that that's the only way you can manage successful teams and you can successfully scale programs.
Absolutely. I really like that point, the delegation and the trust which team should have on the leader, that if something goes wrong, I have somebody to support me. I have somebody at the back. And delegation part also, Hilal sir, like I've seen that people are struggling a lot in delegating the task, like which task to delegate and which task to keep to you as a leader. So what guidance you can give to all of us to have the proper understanding of delegation of the task?
Yeah, so one of the things that I always do is basically like ensure that people understand what is the objective of basically doing something, right? Say, for example, one of the tasks that I told my team is to basically have audit readiness. This is the simplest example that I give everyone. So, audit readiness does not mean, okay, we get basically PCI certification done, we get SOC certification done, or we get ISO certification done. Those things will get done anyway, right? Uh, but what is important is to understand two things. One is that ensuring that okay, like while we are doing these things, that's not actually the objective. The objective is to be able to have a repetitive, predictable audit cycle, meaning that we should be able to reuse basically like material that we have already created. Basically make sure that okay, no matter what audit comes, we should be always ready. So which means that we have to build that framework. For example, one of the frameworks that we build is basically like universal basically compliance framework, UCF, right? So what that does is maps all the controls, and you are able to basically meet only audit that actually comes to you, right? So the objective is basically not to basically complete the task. Objective is to be ready for the task whenever they come. That way you can scale very, very well. So when you're delegating things, you delegate in a way telling them, okay, what exactly is the objective of the or the outcome of that particular task. It's not just a point in time. It's not just in time. It's basically like you have to scale yourself. Make sure that there's strategic value or strategic outcome out of it. So this becomes part of your culture. This becomes part of basically your routine. So you're able to basically like scale tremendously well, right? And the second aspect of it is basically like, okay, we are doing certain tasks. So there are some basically outcomes from it. So what is the value? What is the quality of that particular delivery? So how are you going to be satisfied with, okay, whatever is outcome from that particular task? So we tell them, okay, the quality is something that you have to basically measure. You have to have basically like verifiable, basically outcome with quality, like with any task that we have been delegated. So I think that way, when you actually describe the task properly and you actually tell them what's the vision behind it, what's the objective behind it, then they realize that okay, whatever we are doing is basically operational, but eventually we have to basically be much more strategic. So that I think is basically important I'm talking to my team, and they have to realize that okay, when you are delegating, the delegation is not just about basically completing a particular task, but being ready and being agile and being basically good enough to basically do it consistently every single time.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. This really given a lot of thought on. I think many people will learn this also, that what and how to delegate the things and what kind of confidence you have to give to the team when you are explaining the task, like explaining and the way it needs to be done and the outcome. That is also very important when you are identifying and delegating the task to the team. So I'm sure that in your entire career journey, you have seen so many high pressure environment also, or I can say that where you feel stuck or overwhelmed. So, what are the principles or tools or strategies you have used to get clarity and to be very prompt on your decision making?
I think the most important tools are prioritization, like prioritize the right kind of things. And there's obviously going to be a lot of basically different workloads that are going to come. Right, so you are going to be directed by the business to do something. You are going to be directed by regulators to do something. You are going to be the tech team is going to tell you to do something. So there's always something to do, right? So and there's a lot of going to be a lot of work pressure around it, right? So it's my that's why it's extremely important that we prioritize the right kind of things. So not every task is going to be like equally important. There is going to be some way to tell the business, for example, these are the things how we are actually going to basically prioritize them. Some of the things, like for example, which is business specific requirement. Let's say, for example, we have to meet a regulator's deadline. So that's a non-negotiable thing. Right? So that's what I will actually prioritize. I will make sure that I prioritize that. But then, say for example, like I have a 0 day actually like that I believe is in the organization. So that I had to prioritize as well. So which means that depending on the kind of task and depending the kind of requirement, I have to basically prioritize accordingly. And if I do the prioritization well, the second thing that I need to do is basically communicate it very, very well. So communication is extremely important. So communication has to happen on multiple levels. It has to happen on an executive level. It has to happen on tech level. It has to happen on a risk level. It has to happen on an engineering level. So all the levels of tech, basically, like we have to kind of like make sure that communication goes to the right people in the right format. It should not overly complicate things. And the final thing I think is important is basically ensuring that okay, we have simplified things, right? So we are always going to have like complicated things to do, like so what helps in a very high pressure situation is to break down it into small chunks. So what that does is basically the task becomes a lot more manageable. So if we basically have milestones which are defined like okay, small milestones, that way that a task does not seem to be humongous. It does not seem to be very complicated. So that's why these things, three things, if we do it properly, I think none of the tasks actually are going to be too much to do, right? So prioritization, communication, simplification, I think these are the tools I use all the time.
And I think when you are simplifying, then you can have multiple people working on those small tasks as
Yes,
well. And then you can
exactly.
give more emphasis on the actual problem, that how you are going to solve it, and you can
Absolutely.
release the pressure also, I guess.
Absolutely. That's really helps. Yes.
Yeah, and when you say communication, sir, any example, like any scenario you have seen where you have communicated, and communication means, is this a sharing a problem, sharing a issue with the stakeholders and the team, or like solution? Any scenario
Yes.
like small?
Absolutely. I see. It's more like this, right? Uh, when we are actually communicating. a requirement, or when we are trying to decipher a requirement that comes to us from business or from tech or anywhere, right? So what happens is that like most of the time, we struggle to basically like understand or even explain its importance to the leadership and to the engineers, right? So sometimes it's very important to take a step back and basically like ensure that okay, we have the right kind of communication, right kind of language, and right kind of content in the communication that we do to different types of parties. For executives, for example, when they ask me, okay, we invested this much money in securities, how do you justify that? Which is a common question that gets asked to everybody. Every CISO actually has heard that question like more than once. So when we hear that question, so first thing we get panicked, right? So a lot of things subject to, they're not quantifiable, and it's very difficult to basically explain to them, okay, this is a very important thing for us to do, but we are not able to basically understand, tell them what it really important is. So when I have to go to the leadership, like the board, or where I have to communicate to them, okay, what is the ROI or something like that, I always talk in the language of risk, right? So before, like for example, I tell them, okay, before implementing DLP, our risk was like this. It was on this level. But after implementing DLP, the risk level has come down to this level. So which means that, okay, like earlier our business security maturity was say X percentage, now we are at Y percentage. So that gives them very clear picture of where our risk level lies anymore, right? So they don't have to guess it. So which means that they actually get a clear picture of, okay, how much have we actually invested and what's the ROI on top of it. So we don't really have to struggle to explain it to them. But the same language is not necessarily going to work on basically when you are talking to your peers, or you are talking to basically engineers who are going to work on the task, right? For them, it's a very simple thing. So implement DLP is a good technical control to ensure that, okay, we don't have any data exfiltration that's not authorized, right? So for them, it's a very straightforward control that actually takes care of a lot of different vulnerabilities and attack vectors. So we talk
Right.
in that kind of language. So I think, so that's the basically the distinction that we need to maintain. When we talk to leadership, we talk in risk terms, or we talk in terms of risk management. When we talk to engineers, we talk in tech terms. So that actually works really well.
So you have to be a very good like storyteller kind of a person, because
Absolutely.
you have
Absolutely.
to change the story narration based on the audience, what figures you need to show, how much you can show the stats and all.
Exactly. And they will not have a lot of time to spend on basically understanding like okay, to go deep into that particular aspect of security, right? So it's very important to give them abbreviated, encapsulated information that gives them that visualizes everything for them. So metrics really work very well. So if you have clear metrics, that works really well. For example, if you have lowered the mean time to respond or mean time to detect,
Hmm.
in terms of incident response, those are clear metrics. So if we went, our incident response MTTR went from say 10 hours to 2 hours, that's actually very clear basically like improvement that we have done, right? Similarly, if for example it increases also, that's not a bad thing, because sometimes we may actually like spin up new services, or we have new products, or we actually have merger with different companies, so our risk level may increase over a period of time as well. Our MTTR may also increase. So we have to basically make sure that we give them both the positive and the negative, and they can visualize it. For example, if the risk level goes high, then it means that, okay, we can ask for more investment. We can ask for more headcount. We can ask for more basically tooling. So that works that way. So I think that is something that's very critical, like when we're communicating particularly to leadership. At the same time, when we're basically like talking to basically our peers or our team, I think it again becomes important to be that person who actually can visualize it for them. So, for example, we have a threat model that we have actually delivered. So, what are the different threat vectors that we have illuminated because of this, right? And what does it mean in the long term? So, what are the risks that you can actually downgrade, for example, right? So, I think that really works. And you are absolutely right. Story, you have to be a very good storyteller.
Right. Yeah. So I think Hilal sir, all these things which you are sharing with me, I think you have learned over the experience, like, uh, and based on the scenario, you have changed and you have evolved, and then you have learned it. So my question to you is, the new leaders, those who are coming now, Do you think that the mentoring from the experienced person or a coaching is going to help them? Like, if you have a very experienced mentor, let's say, if I want to do something and I have a mentor like you, or I learn from my experience, what do you think? Like, what is the difference?
See, it works both ways, right? So it's not just about basically teaching someone to do something. I think it's about basically both parties willing to learn something. So, which means that it will always help. Having a mentor always helps because mentors will actually give you the whole ugly truth behind actually working in that particular role. So, how many times we have failed, right? So, what are those things that we made us fail? So we can share those experiences with say our mentees or something like that, which actually is incredibly valuable because what that does is basically it tells you okay what not to do. You will already know what to do, but you will not know what not to do. So I think making that distinction is very important. So when some we are working with a engineer, something like that, or when new leaders are coming and they want a mentor, I think the most important aspect of it is to ensure that okay they do not do things which we have already tested and failed at. So avoid basically the pitfalls that come with it. I think that sort of like information and that kind of like, basically like overall the knowledge that actually gets transferred is I don't think that can be measured in terms of the value. So what is important is basically the mentor and the mentee. They both need to be motivated, right? So they have to be like open to basically learn something that they may not agree with. They have to challenge that, and the mentors have to have the patience to basically know okay yeah people are coming out they're ambitious, they're going to be having their own perspective. Sometimes we learn from them like I lost the count of times when I have learned a lot of things from basically very junior folks who are coming to the industry. So it's very important that both the parties keep an open mind because the learning opportunity can come from anywhere. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the mentors and the mentees to be there so that basically like it's a very healthy way to basically grow, and it sort of like is a shortcut in my opinion because otherwise you have to basically like experiment on your own and do a lot of trial and error and do a lot of experimentation that may not always be fruitful. So the knowledge that you are going to acquire by working for like 5 to 10 years, you get actually that from just by working with a leader who has already gone through those things, and they will tell you exactly what works on the ground, what does not work. There are like some very ideal basically frameworks that we actually use, like for example NIST, RMF, like risk management framework. So, but how many people actually like implement that as it is? Very few organization do that because it has to be customized, it has to be filtered, but everybody knows that that's something that we should use, right? But a lot of people do not basically like go into the details of what exactly we should be doing, what we should not be doing, and that kind of information is very important to tell or the new leaders who are coming up saying that okay not everything is supposed to be taken at face value. You have to do your due diligence and then actually like sort of implement that. I think that sort of like knowledge transfer is like incredible. It's very very important.
Yeah. So, I mean, like we say that when you learn any technology, and if you have a very structured way of learning approach, you will learn it quickly and in a better manner. So, similar to that, if I say that if I want to have an experience that how I can become more better, a version of a leader, which I am today. So, I think if I have a very structured way of executive coaching plan, where I'll be sharing experience with the experienced leaders, and I'll be getting the ideas from them that how I can improve or different situations are there. I think that will be more helpful for the people those who are coming into these roles or they are already, because every day you can learn new things and you can be your better version. So I think that kind of coaching and mentoring scenario will be going to be really helpful for the leaders to.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So one of the things that I normally advise people is basically like there is no shortcut to kind of like hands-on. So you have to be hands-on. You cannot learn everything from the box or videos, whatever you're watching or whatever. It's not going to work. You really have to see what exactly works in a real-time environment where you get to basically experience those things. So unless like you experience them by yourself, none of the videos, none of the books are going to teach you that. So getting your hands dirty, making sure that okay, you have all the necessary basically subject matter expertise that you have to gain basically to execute that. I think a lot of people do not do that. So all the basically the misconceptions that people have that okay, it's going to work like this and every single time it's going to work like this does not work like that. So a lot of things has to be sort of like made compatible or with the requirement that you have in your organization, or even when you are basically taking on leadership roles and you want to basically execute strategic decisions, like say for example, zero trust, or let's say data loss prevention, or you want to have identity and access management like in a strategic way. So all of those things like do not work the way best practices are, right? So it's incredibly important that we adopt the best practices, but they do not work in the format they have been told. So it's incredibly important that the emerging leaders understand that there is a lot of research that has to go into it. You cannot just take a template or a blueprint and just implement that. That does not work. So you have to ensure that okay, everything that you do is actually like the right kind of fit for your organization, right? You're absolutely right. So it's that structured way of basically telling people that okay, this is how you have to go. You actually do not jump to the eighth level while ignoring the first 7 levels. So you have to basically cross each and every level in an incremental way to ensure that okay, you get the real essence of what you are actually trying to learn. I think that makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, I also thinking in that manner, because that way of learning you will not miss any point which is important or any step which is important to be on the next step. So that's also like any experience or any kind of scenario you have to handle, you know, all the things like, but then you learn all those implementation, the best practices as you are mentioning, by experience only. You have those things, but once you are not having that hands dirty as you mentioned, you'll not be able to implement that also. So
Absolutely. And
both
think
are,
about it, right? So not everything comes with a playbook,
yeah.
right? So you have to be prepared for basic eventualities that actually are you have never seen before. So you can actually follow the playbooks for basically known things and some unknown things also, right? But there's always going to be an instant when you are under tremendous amount of pressure and you come across a challenge that you are not able to solve by yourself. And so what do you do in that circumstance? What do you do in that situation? So when you don't have like a precedent for something, so it all depends on your thought process. Like, okay, why do I start from? What do I do next? How do I ensure that okay, there is minimal or like very strategic way of minimizing the impact? So those things are not going to basically you are not going to learn that from the book. You are not going to learn that from basically your past experience. So it all comes down to basically like what your thought process is, how well do you actually like understand and execute a plan that will actually get you out of that situation, right? So those kind of eventually nobody is going to teach you. So that's when it becomes important that we do not always rely on playbooks, and that's those lessons will only come from basically when you gain enough experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, sir, one more question from my side, which I have. Like, I'm also part of many conferences, communities. Also, I'm keep traveling, and I've seen that you are also often engaged in industry conversations, events, strategic forums. So, how do these events you think that is going to shape a leader, or give a different perspective to the leader? Is it good for the leaders to be part of such events, communities, conferences? What is your thought on that? I think you are on mute.
I'm so sorry, sorry for that. I apologize. What I was saying was that like being part of these networking events or conferences is extremely important. Not only does it actually allow you to broaden your horizons, you get to basically see different perspectives. You have like diversity of opinion, and sometimes you have debates around things that are kind of like very important for people to basically be pros and cons and things like that. And it also gives you a different perspective in terms of basically how you see things. You get validation, for example, for some of the things that you are executing, whether you're doing the right thing or not. Second is basically like you get to basically meet people who are either going to be this thinking the same way that you are, or they're going to have a different kind of opinion. So, which is very important, because sometimes what happens that we feel that whatever we are thinking, whatever we are doing is actually like the best thing to do. But when you hear somebody else talking about it, you actually realize, okay, that's a better way to do things. So then on top of that, like you get to basically like experience different types of inspirational leaders who actually are there talking, and that basically like having one-on-ones. They are actually like, so I don't in my opinion, that's the biggest takeaway from that, because you get to basically like meet people who otherwise you will not be able to meet, like because of different reasons, right? So it gives an opportunity to basically like meet with those people who can actually tell you stories from their life, for example, tales of trenches, like all those things that we can actually talk about. And you also have the opportunity to basically like meet new people who are going to be like long-term peers for you, and you are going to build more relationships. You are going to basically learn more stuff, and you are also going to basically be introduced to some of the specific like things that you are exploring. For example, some people may be interested in learning about blockchain, so I'll be happy to talk to them about blockchain, which will be my job to tell. So similarly, other people will be very interested in talking about, say, AI, so they can actually have a better perspective of AI. And some people may even be basically interested in knowing how do we do risk management. So you get to meet all these different types of people who you otherwise will not be able to meet. So you get all of this experience in one place, and that's why it becomes very important for young leaders to be part of those conferences. And I encourage like everybody to basically participate in as many as you can, and depending on your interest, ensure that you meet people that who are going to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people wants to come and attend conference where you meet people like you, sir, so this Cyber AI Summit, if you see, it's coming on the screen. So that's happening very near on 4th September. So if you want to be part of that, you can come and meet sir in person as well. So we will be lucky to meet you also in that event. So, and absolutely right. I also take it as a positive from such kind of events where you get a lot of perspective, and yes, absolutely, you change your perspective also, and you get very good approach also to solve some issues which you were taking big routes, and then you have a small route also, which is a good one. So yeah, absolutely agree. So I'm actually loving talking to you, sir. I know that we have so many questions also lined up, but one question which I wanted to ask from the start as well is, like, uh, one leadership value which you think that you don't want to compromise on. What is that, and why you want to keep it as a very strong leadership value for you?
I think uh, integrity is something that I will never compromise on. So, which means that everything else that I do is basically a byproduct of that. So, I have to maintain the highest levels of integrity because, as a security leader, somebody who is supposed to be accountable, who is supposed to be transparent, who is supposed to be straightforward, right? So, meaning that, like, I had to be able to maintain and ensure that integrity is never compromised, right? So I think everybody who's working in security, I think the integrity is like non-negotiable. So if your integrity is lacking, then you are not the right person for the job. Particularly like because like we have access to data, we have access to sensitive information, we have access to so many things that are really private. And if they get exposed, the organization, the people might get actually in trouble. On top of that, we might lose the trust of the customers, and we might lose business as well. So, meaning that the integrity is something that's incredibly important for any security person, and being able to basically show highest levels of integrity. I think the only ways people can grow and people can show trust in them in return. So every single time, like when you have to make a decision, ensure that you do not compromise integrity, because the moment you compromise integrity, then it's a downhill from there. So you are never going to recover from it.
Right, absolutely. Thank you. Like I also agree that this is very, very important value which leader should have, because people are going to follow leader. So if leader is not having that quality, then what team will do so? Very important point.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what what you would like to say to aspiring leaders, like who are very uncertain about their leadership path, and they are waiting for getting some kind of playbook, as you mentioned, but how they can like start growing, what kind of things they can do, any mantra which you want to give to all
Yeah.
of us?
So I think the first and foremost thing is to forget that leadership is about basically title and designation. So it's important to basically understand that you can show leadership at no matter what level you are, right? It's leadership comes in different types and shapes and formats, right? You can show your technical leadership, you can show your operational leadership, you can show your business leadership, you can show your risk leadership, you can show all sorts of different leaderships, right? So you do not have to be a CISO, you don't have to be a director, you don't have to be a president of anything to show leadership, right? So leadership comes from within. So you have to basically make sure that okay, the qualities that make successful leaders, you actually exhibit them as well. So, for example, you need to show transparency, you need to show accountability, you need to show, of course, like the productivity. You do not compromise on integrity. You show like great levels of communication. So all of that, if you actually execute like on the levels that you are guaranteed to grow. There's no doubt about it, right? So at the same time, you will show a lot of leadership qualities that will elevate you to the position that you want to be. So having a title or having a designation is a byproduct. But more important is that like regardless of whether you have people reporting to you or not, you can still be a leader. So you can be a leader basically in your personal life as well. You can be a leader in the industry. You can be the leader in the team. You can be the leader in the organization. Does not matter. So all you have to basically decide is that okay, what is my uh, contribution to basically like whatever I'm doing? How does it actually change my organization? How does it change my society? How does it change even my personal life as well? Right. So how does it impact my family? So all of those things are actually like very important to be a good leader. So showing patience, for example, in adversity is very good quality to have. Being able to show empathy and being able to show kindness is a good basically like quality for a leader, right? So all of these combined, when you actually show these qualities at no matter what level you are, you absolutely are going to be a leader. There's no doubt about it. The other thing that actually is basically okay, how do I actually get started? You don't have to basically start um, uh, before reaching a level, right? So you can start from wherever you are, right? So in terms of basically becoming good, successful leaders, I think the one of the most important things is to be predictable and be consistent. So people should actually understand what basically like okay, if I'm going to be dealing with Hilal or Abhilasha, so what I'm going to get out of it, and how if she's going to say the same thing tomorrow as well as or not. So that predictability is important. That I should understand that if I'm giving some task or I'm basically able to basically communicate, they will actually get that thing done. So second thing is basically like being consistent. So if I'm delivering something with quality today, does not mean that I'm not going to deliver anything quality like in next month. So we have to basically deliver quality like every single time. We have to basically be transparent in our communication every single time. So the persistence and the consistency is extremely important. So those are the things I think if done properly, if exhibited properly, it will definitely make very very good leaders.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Like, if I summarize for the audience, like, we learn a lot and we talk about a lot on the leadership values, and the most important value, which you also pointed, that is integrity. And also the pointers which you have mentioned, that how you can mention the high pressure points where you can be very, in a very, very simple manner, you can understand the problem, you can communicate the problem, you can break the big problem into the small chunks. And yes, we will be learning with the experiences, but yes, if we have a very structured executive coaching program, I think the new learners will get some kind of ideas or the pointers which they have to work on. And that's really going to be really helpful for all of us to get the insights from you. You are a natural leader, sir, but
Mm.
really I learned a lot from this interaction and the session, and looking forward to meeting you on 4th September in person also. Again, very excited for that as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I would not miss it for anything, right? So I think I have been part of this for a long time now. And the kind of energy that Pooja brings in, Satya brings in is like
Yeah.
tremendous. They're infectious, right? I wish I was like them. I wish I had energy like them. So, and the kind of people they bring to the conference and the kind of content actually is the conference is like next level, right? So it's amazing.
Yeah.
So I absolutely become richer when I basically like attend the conference. So I look forward to that and would absolutely love to meet you in person as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Lal sir. Best wishes and looking forward to meeting you. And thank you all the audience who have joined and who have got the insights from Hilal sir's journey and the story and the experiences. Looking forward to meeting you in the upcoming sessions with the leaders, those who have excelled in their career and those who have grown organically in their roles. So thank you once again, Hilal sir, for joining us today. Thank you.
My pleasure, Abhilash. It was a great conversation to have with you. Have a very nice day. Bye.